Stidham is tearing it up at Nemea. He may well be the incumbent to Tom Brady there.
Former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Coach K brings his expertise as he breaks down the game, the players, the coaches, and the front office. Plus, high-profile interviews from the biggest names in football. Talk football with Coach K every weekday from noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
I thought I was too old.
I thought I was too young.
I didn't think I had what it takes.
How'd I find the time?
I went into a music store and tried some percussion.
Keyboard, guitar,
bass,
ukulele.
And before I knew it,
I could actually play a song.
Why make excuses when you can make music?
Just play.
This message brought to you by the NAM Foundation.
Sylvan success story number 4,092.
In 5th grade, we started noticing some problems, and it really changed our world. Sylvan gives parents like me hope. She's done a complete 180, and she's getting all A's and B's on her own. There's no more fighting about homework. I know that it's going to get turned in, and I know that she's going to rock it.
Start your own Sylvan success story. Call 1-800-EDUCATE or visit sylvanlearning.com.
This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEVY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome in to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson on this Thursday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe. Of course, washing your hands, continuing to practice social distancing. Cases are going up in some areas, obviously. Don't panic. Continue to do what you've been doing this entire time, hopefully. And we're going to get through this. We bring positivity to this show here. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Coach has been the same way as well. It costs you nothing to be positive, and I think that's the way we need to go about this right now. We are going to get through this. We're going to be stronger from this. Made that very clear. But look, as we always start off our show, we'll continue to do so. It goes without saying. We want to thank our first responders and healthcare workers at this time, just for what they do day in and day out. If you're a healthcare worker or a first responder, whoever you are listening to the show, first off, everybody, we appreciate you joining us, but we thank you guys so much for what you do behind the scenes. It's a lot of these things that we don't see that go on that these people take care of, from getting people better. Obviously, I have friends and family that are on both sides of the spectrum here, and to hear the stories of how much they love their job, but how much support they get from the community as well is absolutely awesome. They're the unsung heroes that we never talk about. I know we're a proud military town, so we know what that means to us, but I do want to thank them, obviously. The grocery store employees, truck drivers, all the essential workers out there, send a special shout-out to you as well. We thank you guys so much for what you do for us. We are so grateful. I think it goes without saying, obviously, we kind of forget about these people sometimes. If you go to the grocery store, grab maybe some waters and hopefully not any more toilet paper. I think everybody's stocked up. But regardless, whatever you're picking up, just think about those people that are working there. They've been working there the entire time, trying to make things a little more normal. And like I said before, normal is not a word we probably will use from here on out, but the truck drivers, once again, the people that are, those are kind of the forgotten heroes in all this stuff, delivering things all over the country for us. I've talked to a few of them, and they listen to the show, and they're appreciative, and they love it. And look, we love them, but we love our community as well, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. We have a ton to talk about, but first things first, Coach, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing well, JP. Good to be with you, and as always, I second your thanks to all those people at the beginning of the show. We certainly owe them quite a bit.
Absolutely. That goes without saying, Coach. You were absolutely right on that. And listen, we have a ton to get to, a little bit of time here. Coach, I want to start off with this. No big surprise. I think a lot of people are panicking like, oh, no, here we go. But this is something that you've called from the beginning. I want to make this very clear. So we need to be optimistic on this. But the Cowboys versus Steelers Hall of Fame game, look, the enshrinement ceremony, that was postponed. It was, when you look at the enshrinement, I believe they made the announcement that 2020 and 2021 will be done together. But the Hall of Fame game is canceled. And Coach, when you look at this is no surprise. I think for a lot of us, we're kind of scratching our heads of why they hadn't already just go ahead and make the announcement. It is a big deal when you talk about the enshrinement, obviously, but this is not, of course, a regular season game for anybody. This is a game that kind of just gets things a little bit started here for the preseason. But once again, Coach, them canceling this game, I feel like I know what you're going to say on this, but we shouldn't panic on this because, look, we should go ahead and probably prepare ourselves for maybe no preseason games, even though the NFL said they want to have at least 2 so players can get used to what's going to happen. But, Coach, you've said from the beginning, go ahead and probably get used to it that there's going to be no preseason moving forward. That way the NFL can put itself in the best position moving forward to keep players at less risk as possible.
Well, we have been talking about this quite a bit. I think that this is absolutely no surprise about the Hall of Fame game. And you say, well, why don't they just go ahead and announce? But I think it's being done incrementally. They thought through each and every process that they want to take. And I think they're doing it 1 week at a time. And they'll do away with the Hall of Fame game, then I think they'll shorten the the time in camp. And I'm guessing they do away with at least 2 preseason games, maybe all of them. But I think you have to be prepared for all of the preseason games being canceled. But my best guess is they'll try to keep 2 in there just for the sake of the young kids, because think about it now. Even though you say, well, the owners want the money. No, well, the owners are investing quite a bit in all those young kids coming in, draft choices and so on. They're investing quite a bit of money. They don't want to see them just be put on the street because they didn't have a chance to show themselves in preseason games. So they'll probably try to sneak in 1 or 2. My best guess is 2, but be prepared for none.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, and for those that didn't hear it, the NFL wants at least 2, like I said, for the sole fact of not necessarily playing as much as preparing and what they're going to have to go through. Because once again, we have to understand this year's going to be a lot different. It's going to be nothing like, not just for us that we've ever seen before, but for players and coaches and everybody involved. It's going to be interesting. So, we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, the Hall of Fame game and the enshrinement has been canceled right now. The enshrinement will be 2020 and 2021 will be done together. So we'll see what happens with moving forward on the preseason games. But, Coach, right now,
let me give you, JP. Let me give you just a little quick look into an NFL coach's room as you bring in your rookies and free agents and draft choices. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard coaches say when they start talking about a player, just based on what they're doing in shorts and T-shirts on the field, and I've heard coaches rave about a kid and then brought back to earth very quickly by, he looks good in shorts, but let's see what he does in the preseason games before we make a decision on him. There's no question we got to see him play. Now, what does that tell you right there? If you don't have the preseason games, if you don't have any at all, they got to find a way to scrimmage anyway, because you've got to see those young people play against NFL talent. And I would think they'll do everything they can to try to get 2. If they have to go 1, go with 1. But I've always said be prepared that they just call them all off. So that's what you're looking at. But that's the importance that coaches place on the young kids having a chance to play.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you bring up, Coach, because when we talk about the preseason games, a lot of people scoff at them. And it's not as much for us as it is for obviously the teams and importance for those young guys like you were talking about. The veterans, we know how the veterans feel. We hear about it every year. A lot of them just like to get their feet wet and move on. That's it. Just kind of get back into the flow of things. But for these rookies, they're fighting for jobs. And it's not the big-name rookies all the time that we talk about. It's a lot of these guys that will fill in, that will add depth, whatever it may be, that are trying to make a team. Remember, not just everybody makes the team just because you were picked up by them. That needs to be very clear to a lot of people, which people should know, obviously, listening to this show. But it's going to be interesting, Coach. I know that teams obviously want to have some type of scrimmages. Will we get a preseason game? Will we get two? That's the big question moving on. But right now, so far so good. We will have some preseason football. We'll see. Once again, this is a day-by-day process. And, Coach, I do agree. Canceling the Hall of Fame game is a step thing that as they move along. It's like, okay, well, you know what? We're going to go ahead and do this. So I trust the NFL. Unlike, I'm hearing a lot of naysayers. I think it's really easy once again to be negative, but the NFL understands what's at stake here. And you can say, well, it's about money. Well, yeah, it's definitely about money. That's a part of life. But I will say that for NCAA, NFL, all these other leagues, they understand the risk that they're taking right now, and that's why I believe that they are going to put the players' health. They're going to do the best they can. That's all we can do right now. We can't just clam ourselves up just because the virus is going on. Not everybody can. So, Coach, with that being said, though, teams, of course, we've seen Tom Brady and Russell Wilson and those guys. Now, they take some criticism because they're out there practicing, even though I have no problem with it, but it is what it is, I guess. But right now, Ian Rappaport of NFL Media reports that multiple teams are proceeding as if the start of camp will be July 28th. Now, that's 47 days before the scheduled start of the regular season for most teams, which is the mandated start time by the new collective bargaining agreement. Coach, obviously, have you heard anything outside of business as usual when we're talking about camp coming back and the possibility of July 28th?
No, other than what we've already talked about on this show at this time a couple of times. The word has been consistently, JP, from those who are in the know, that they have really contemplated and gone through each and every possibility that they might face. And they thought about how they were going to cross that bridge if they got to it. So they've made plans up through, and I heard this quite a while back, they've made plans up through starting the season 1st of November. Okay, so wow. Think about how many game days have you surpassed and have you thought through to get to the 1st of November. You're talking about all of September, all of October. And they thought through those. And when they would open, how they would handle the crowds and what they were allowed to do and how they would bring those crowds back to full stadiums and so on. And even if they had to play without crowds all year, they're ready for that. So this has been thoroughly thought through. And I don't see any way that whatever happens is going to surprise the NFL. I think they're pretty much ready for anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. Up to November 1st there. That's look, once again, that's where for people that want to criticize these leagues, they got it going on. They've got a lot of things figured out. I do not envy any of these people. I do not want to be in the positions of any of these owners. I want to be in the position of Goodell or any of the doctors or anything of being a part of any of these leagues. I want to make that very clear. From you go to the SEC and Greg Sankey and those guys. This is you make your money's worth this year. It's you can tell that a lot of them stressed out, obviously, but the one thing I'll make it clear is they all stress that look, we don't have to make the decision right now. And people, please understand that we are doing everything the best we can and even taking more precautions just because of everything at risk. So, it's going to be interesting, Coach, to say the very least. But, with that being said, I do want to mention this, too. The NFL, of course, tells teams that they want them right now to tarp off the first 6 to 8 rows of seats in every stadium. Now, they are going to allow them to sell, obviously, sponsors and things like that, but they're doing it more so along the lines for the players to keep people, because if we do, they're planning for fans, but to keep there's a little bit more distance between the players and the fans here. Coach, any problem with them, roping off 6 to 8 rows of seating, selling some sponsorships, making a little more money because right now we don't think the stadiums are going to be packed. We think there may be some fans, but any problem with this?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, you could go many steps further, and let's say you're allowed 20% of your capacity in the stadium to be socially distanced when they come into the stadium and while they're seated. And they have plans for that, skipping every other row and moving from side to side, with different configurations to allow for that to happen, hoping that every seat would be filled. But I can certainly understand moving the fans back 6 to 8 rows. And I'm going to tell you this, players jumping in the stands in the end zone, that's coming to an abrupt end, too. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And you know what? This is going to be interesting because this could actually be an easier way to keep people separated. Selling, if you're like you said, 20%, regardless of whatever it is, sell some sponsorships out there, make a little more money, make it easier. Because look, we just got to find a way, Coach. It seems we're taking it one day at a time. Just got to get through this year. And maybe later in the year, we're hearing we might have a vaccine. I know saw a report. It has nothing to do with sports, but I guess it does. But vaccines being tested right now over in the UK. So we'll see. I know they've been working on a lot of things right now, but hopefully we can get that going. But nonetheless, I think it's a great idea too. Sell some sponsorships, 6 to 8 rows. It makes things look a little bit better, especially when you're going to have scattered stands, regardless. It seems to start out with. But Coach, a couple more things before we go to break here. John Swofford is going to retire as the ACC commissioner after this year. He is 71 years old. He's obviously been doing it for 24 years, leading the ACC, the longest tenure for a commissioner in league history. Goes on to say it's been a privilege, but Coach, when you look at this, I almost go, yeah, this year would drive just about anybody into retirement, especially if they were on the edge of it. But John Swofford is obviously announced he will retire after this year. He's going to go ahead and push through, but no surprise there. Coach, I do want to mention this before. Now, this is an interesting wishy-washy story. We're not even sure when he's going to be able to truly come back now, as Antonio Brown, a guy that we talked about last year, has not been in the news lately, is now popping back up just recently. Of course, he got some of his sentencing done. Now he's got to face league discipline. We're not even sure what's going to happen. Coach, when you look at it right now, the two teams that are actually reported to be after him, the Seahawks and the Ravens. Coach, my question is not, are they going to pick him up? I think we'll see what happens when the league makes their decision. But, Coach, after everything with Antonio Brown went through, I mean, we know Josh Gordon is trying to come back in the league as well, as he has filed for reinstatement. He has had a drug issue, and a lot of demons he's been fighting. But Antonio Brown, Coach, similar story here. We know how talented he is. Look, when he's on the field, he is amazing. Him and Tom Brady last year for that one game was so much fun to watch, and it was almost like Belichick was showing off his new toy right there. But, Coach, Antonio Brown, I mean, if you got a team and you're a successful team, now we're talking about the Seahawks, if we're talking about the 49ers, we're talking about the Ravens or a team like that, do you even risk bringing in Antonio Brown for what could happen and possibly cause a lot of controversy in that locker room?
That's a great question, JP, and it really, really begs a tremendous amount of contemplation and thought before you make that move. And let me tell you, when you see a tremendous talent that could be available to your football team, you start putting pieces together that may be unrealistic. And I'm sincere about that. I've cautioned a staff before. I've had a staff before where we had, I won't mention the names, on either the coaches or the player, particular one player involved, where, yes, it could have made a big difference from the talent that we put on the field to have brought the guy in, and there was a tremendous case made for bringing him in and putting him with the people we had. But there was also a big downside as far as what I could discern, and that would be the locker room problems that could be created, other problems between players on our football team other than just the locker room. And I decided against it, even though we could have probably brought the guy in. Well, he did go to another team. Another team brought him in, and he proved to be a terrible problem and was suspended. Now, this is something that is very, very enticing. When you've got a football team and you see a talent there that you know can help you, if you can just corral it and keep it in. And there are many, many coaches that feel like they can do that. The fact is they can't. That is very unlikely. I only know of one or two. Belichick and Lombardi would come to mind right away. Okay, that could bring in, and they have brought in problems before, and they've been exemplary citizens and played well for that football team. But they're few and far between, I can promise you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, Coach, it's one thing that everybody I'm sure has heard. All that glitters is not gold, and just because when we look at a talent, Antonio Brown is a fantastic wide receiver, dynamic when he's on the field, but that's the problem, getting on the field, and then what happens in the locker room. We saw, once again, I go back to I have the utmost respect for Mike Tomlin and the way he was able to handle that team with all those different personalities. Coach, you've been there. You've been a player in the locker room. You've been a coach in the locker room. Personalities and things, of course, are probably a little bit worse now than they were because of everybody has a voice and people are not afraid to say anything at this point. But look, I think that Antonio Brown is great. There's no question with his talent. But it goes back to, again, the one thing that I've learned so much from you, Coach, is the locker room is a lot more important than what you do on the field because if teams aren't gelling, you're never going to take the next step. Fred Robbins told me a couple weeks ago, talking about that New York Giants team, that this was a team that in the locker room, they had no problems whatsoever, and that's why they were successful. He goes, a lot of these people have a lot more talent than we did, but we go out there, and because we all believe in each other, we all know and we all love each other, and we all understand that we are out here for one reason, and nothing outside of whatever you got going on in your life outside is not going to affect us in the locker room, because when we step foot in that locker room, we're strictly business, and that's the way I see this, and that's the way I've seen the Patriots for so long. So for Antonio Brown, he's got a lot of hurdles to get over because he still has to face league punishment. We'll see what happens with him, but nonetheless, talent is there, but it's off the field that you got to worry about in that locker room as well. But Coach, we got to go to a quick break here. When we come back, look, popped up today is it Super Bowl or bust for Tom Brady, and who will replace Brady in the AFC East? When we're talking about the best quarterback in the East, well, you've got Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Tua, and Jarrett Stidham. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Jamal Adams says his relationship is the main reason he wants out of New York, talking about Adam Gase. We'll get into all that and more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
I love you. Who's that good baby? That's right. Petland Pensacola now has pet birds to brighten your home. Offer companionship and mental well-being. Petland's birds are all bred in the USA, and Petland's counselors will help you pick out the perfect pet bird. Choose from ringnecks, cockatiels, mustache parakeets, and parakeets in several colors, macaws, and coming soon, blue-fronted Amazon and umbrella cockatoos. Petland on Davis Highway next to Big Lots in Pensacola.
Need a job? Then let's get back to work. Check out this listing.
Family Heating and Air has immediate openings for talented and motivated teammates. Great company with great benefits. Send your resume to opsmanager@familyheatingandac.com. If your business is hiring, then let us help you. We can tell thousands of potential candidates about your company and opportunity right now. Call us at 262-6000 to get started.
We're helping Pensacola get back to work.
The latest news and sports can be heard on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Get the latest news and football on Talk Football with Coach K. Daily sports talk on your drive home on The Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. And a recap and look ahead of the sports week on Sports Call with Davis and Justin every Saturday. Plus, national sports radio talk on Golic and Wingo, The Dan Lebertard Show with Stu Gotts, and The Paul Feinbaum Show. It all lives on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson. On this Thursday afternoon, hope you're doing well. We're talking some football as always. Appreciate you guys joining the show here. Coach, I want to get into this. This popped up, a couple questions popped up, obviously. First take today, is it Super Bowl or bust for Tom Brady and the Bucs? Coach, look, I looked at the FPI, the ESPN FPI, which is kind of how they break it down by the roster and the schedule and everything they got. They actually, I laughed at this, they actually have the Bucs finishing 9-7. Remember, this is a team last year that finished 7-9 with Jameis Winston at quarterback, but have them finishing 9-7 and second in the NFC South to the Saints. But I do want to mention a fun fact here for, well, I guess maybe not a fun fact for Bucs fans, but it's changed now. Tom Brady's won 27 playoff games since the Bucs last won a game in 2002 in the playoffs, obviously, coach of that Super Bowl. But just a little FYI, just want to throw that out there. Coach, before I turn it over to you and get your take on this, this defense, obviously the last 6 games, I know you've mentioned it, was toward the upper tier of the league when you really break it down. They really look good. We talked about it with Tom Brady coming over. It's going to change things. Coach, I just didn't. I don't see how this is not going to work out for the Bucs, and I just can't see 9-7.
No, I would agree with you totally. And I'm probably a little bit higher on the Bucs than maybe most people are. But I will tell you, without any question in my mind about it, they're a good football team and now have become better than good with Tom Brady, and then add Gronkowski in, and you really got something special. Now, keep in mind, there are a lot of people out there, I think it's probably the same people that are interested in removing a lot of our history and traditions, but they don't like Tom Brady. Tom Brady is too traditional. They would rather have a Renaissance man, if you will, at quarterback. I think Brady is going to win it. That is a long shot. guess on my part. He's never won, keep in mind, he's never won less than 10 games in a season that he's played. That is amazing. That's an amazing stat. Now, if you look at what they are capable of doing, and with a guy like Brady, I think you have to look at certainly better than 9-7. I think they're obviously looking at 10 wins plus. They're going to have a couple of tough games. The one at New Orleans to open the season is going to be very difficult. But keep in mind, Brady has been on teams that 0-2 or 0-3, I think, and come back and go to the Super Bowl. So he's been through it, and he knows how to handle that and work with his players and have the confidence in him to come back and get it done. So, yeah, I put it all together. I put a lot of things together there. And it adds up to me. They should be favored to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, to hear the question, Super Bowl or bust, I laugh because my thing is Brady leaves the organization that he's been with is pretty much obviously his entire career. That he was the face. We know him and Belichick were it, and just what he was able to do there, I think, is still underrated from the way a lot of people look at it because people forget of what Tom Brady did. People look at it's the old "what have you done for me lately" type thing. And Tom Brady, we have to look at it. Last year, he said that last year he was the most aggravated, undefeated quarterback going into, I believe they were 8-0 or whatever it was at the time. And he was talking about because they didn't have anybody around him. He was just getting frustrated. And I think, Coach, when we talk about Tom Brady, this is the guy that even last year, year before, you hear players talk about it. He had an article from 2002 or 2003 that somebody said something about him, and he uses it for fuel to his fire. This is a special human being. And I'm not going to listen to the people that want to say, well, he's done. He's too old. I just don't. He's not a normal 43-year-old, okay? I want to make that very clear.
Well, listen, there's one other thing here that should give people a pretty good idea of what's going on with that. There are a great many people, you will hear this, everybody will hear it from time to time from people. Number one, they don't like the Patriots. That's number one. Number two, there is, in addition to that group, not liking anything about the Patriots, there's a group that would say, well, it's not Brady. He was in Belichick's system, and it was all Belichick. And you'll see what Brady can do when he gets away from Belichick. And then there are others that will say Belichick had Brady, and you'll see what happens to Belichick when Brady's gone. So any way they can, they want to cast a shadow on the Patriots, Belichick, and Brady. Those three, I have heard more idiotic statements made about those three than any I've ever heard in football, and I've heard a lot of them. But those are the most outlandish that I've ever heard. It's just a great example of a change in culture, really. But the Super Bowl or bust? No, he doesn't have to win the Super Bowl or bust. I don't buy that from anybody. Let me tell you what, to get to the playoffs is a heck of a deal. Then to win your conference is a heck of a deal. Get to the Super Bowl is one heck of a deal, and then win the Super Bowl, you're talking about something that is beyond the pale as far as most people would understand on what it takes to get there. So, but has Brady done it before? You betcha more than anybody else in the game.
Yeah,
so don't sell him short.
That's exactly right, Coach, because we act like, look, here's the thing. If you're ready to win now, you pull the trigger because the opportunity may never present itself. And that's what the Bucs did. They understood that what they were missing. They went out and got it. We've seen teams do this before, but that's where when you look at it, what you just said right there, people need to understand. Coach, you've been there. You understand more than just about anybody around here, obviously. You could talk to Fred Robbins and those guys. They speak the same language you do, Coach, in understanding how hard it is to just make it to the playoffs, first off, and then once you make it to the playoffs, it's like a deep breath, like, all right, whew, all right, now we got to start over, and now we got to try to work our way through it because you are playing the best of the best in the entire world. We need to make that very clear to everybody. And then to make it to the Super Bowl, it's not something to look. Some of these teams have not done it in forever, and there's a reason behind it because it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not like, some of these other sports, like you're talking about having five guys on the court in the NBA, and you can go stack teams. You can't just necessarily do that in football. It takes so many more, even more than baseball. Got 9 guys on the field. You can stack, somewhat stack lineups. Ask the Yankees. They've been doing it for years. But still in football, you got 22 guys plus the special team. There's so much that gets involved in here, and it is unbelievably tough, Coach. And I'm saying that, and I have no idea what it's even like. And you've been there. So I take it from all – look, you guys are the professionals. You and Fred and Derek and all those guys, hearing from them, you guys understand better than anybody else. So I think that's where people need to understand what Brady did. And to cast doubt upon him, that's fine because you know what? That's exactly what fuels Brady, and that's why this Bucs team. The more I look into this, he hasn't had weapons like this in forever, Coach, and he has the biggest chip on his shoulder that he's never had in his entire life. Don't give me this. He's 43. I'm not buying him. Sorry, not going to happen. But I do want to say something, Coach. Look, we talk about Brady, and look, he's gone in the AFC East. We know that the Patriots are moving on. Jarrett Stidham is now the guy we think right now. The question also came up, who will replace Brady as the best quarterback in the AFC East? And that doesn't have to necessarily be this year, Coach, but going on. We have Josh Allen, of course, with the Buffalo Bills, Sam Darnold with the Jets, poor guy. Tua Tagovailoa, now they're in Miami. And now we don't think he's going to start right away. We'll see if Ryan Fitzpatrick, but we obviously know Tua is the quarterback of the future if he can stay healthy. And then Jarrett Stidham in New England, Coach. When you look at these 4 quarterbacks, which one of these guys, stands out? Do you think will have a better career and nobody's I believe going to have a Brady career, obviously, but will be the best quarterback in years to come in the AFC East?
Well, that's
I know it's tough,
but and a lot of it has to do with what kind of team they put around these guys. The first thing to make a statement about that particular question is nobody is going to replace Brady. Now, that's not going to happen. But as far as being a winning quarterback in the NFL and the AFC East, you would have to look at. I think you got to look at Tua. I'm not as high on the Jets as some people are. I think he's a good young quarterback, but I don't think he's in the upper echelon. I think Tua will have a chance to get to a very high level of quarterbacking in the league, and as if he can stay healthy. And then I like Stidham. I've said this before. Everybody would place him 4th on the list right now. I'm sure he wouldn't even be mentioned. But look out, he's going to be playing in a system that will take advantage of what he can do, surrounding with a good football team, be able to run the football, be able to play good defense, game plan better than anybody else in the league, and not ask him to do more than he's capable of doing. But he's capable of doing quite a bit more than people think. So I think he's going to be a surprise. I think he's going to do a heck of a job, and wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the guy that right now would be on the bottom of the barrel. But I really like Tua. I think, and I think it's a fine young quarterback at Buffalo. I just don't know that he's a complete NFL quarterback because of accuracy problems.
Yeah, I think because when you look at Josh Allen, Coach, in Buffalo, he's doing the same thing he was doing in college. He's a special talent, a very athletic kid, obviously, but he's that gunslinger and not the good gunslinger. And so Sam Darnold, I'm with you. Look, Sam Darnold turned the football over a lot at USC as well, it doesn't help him that he's with the Jets right now, and they're trying to figure out that situation in Adam Gase, and we'll talk about him coming up after the break. But Tua, we want to see Tua. We want Tua to be healthy because of the dynamic talent he is. Him and Joe Burrow could take this league by storm, and we not even know it. And then Jarrett Stidham. Coach, a little interesting fact here. Jarrett Stidham, was a more efficient passer than Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, and Jared Goff in college, and all those guys are doing pretty well for themselves. So I just want to throw that out there for people that downplay Jarrett Stidham. We haven't truly seen the Jarrett Stidham, and Dante Scarnecchia talked a little bit about Jarrett Stidham as he's going to go through the normal growing pains, but this kid is extremely talented, and there's a reason right now that we're talking about him being QB1 for the Patriots under Belichick. So it goes without saying that, we do have to have some trust in Belichick. He's been doing pretty good for himself for quite some time. But, Coach, we got to go to a break here. When we come back, we will talk about, not Jamal Adams and his relationship with Adam Gase. We'll talk a little bit about Adam Gase because it does bring up a good question. And as well as, there's some teams that haven't won a championship, some big-name teams haven't won a championship since the modern era of college football in '92. We'll talk about which team do we see that could win a national championship first. All that and more coming back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola. Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
For ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. During the 2002 Soccer World Cup, An Jung-hwan from South Korea scored a goal against Italy in injury time, knocking the Italians out of the World Cup. The next day, his contract with his Italian home club was terminated because the owner said he could not pay the person who had ruined Italian football. I mean, he does have a point. Australian rower Bobby Pierce won the 1928 Olympic Games against 8 other competitors, even though he stopped during the race to let ducks pass in front of him. See, nice guys do finish first. That's your Ridiculous Facts. I'm JP.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Pensacola's home to hometown sports, covering the biggest high school games. UWF football, catching every game of the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. Plus, local sports commentary with the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. And weekend sports talk with Davis Allen and Justin Patrick on the Sports Call. We are local. We are ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Hey, this is Chad Brillante from the Afternoon Sports Drive, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you joining us. We're talking some football as always and getting into this, Coach. Look, I'm not going to get into the whole Jamal Adams thing. I'm not a big fan of players coming out and saying, get rid of me, trade me, I want to go somewhere else. I will make mention that Jamal Adams, a talented safety at that. I'll give him that for sure. This is another guy that I'm going to leave my opinion at the door, but came out with 7 teams that he wanted to be traded to. I thought it was funny. They're all playoff teams. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. Coach, he says, of course, Coach Adam Gase is a big reason why he wants to leave. And that brought me to a point or a question I wanted to ask you. Adam Gase has been a guy, we saw him, look, with the Dolphins. We remember him going back to his time with the Denver Broncos and that offense, being the coordinator there. Adam Gase hasn't really been able to get it going. A lot of people were surprised that the Jets hired him as the new head coach there. But, Coach, when you look at the offense hasn't been very good. The Jets overall have been a mess, but they've been a mess for a while. I want to make that very clear. Coach, when you look at Adam Gase and his background and what he's doing right now, do you see him being the coach of the future for the Jets? Do you see him being able to get it done with the Jets?
Quite frankly, no, I don't. I'm not particularly fond of his demeanor. Now, that doesn't say a whole heck of a lot about his football knowledge. I'm not around him enough, or never have been, to have an outstanding position on his knowledge of football. I don't think that he is, just based on what I've seen, I don't think it's anything special, which it would have to be. But I really just don't. I don't see Adam Gase being a top-flight coach, and I don't think he's. I don't think he's the type of guy that his players really believe in. I think he's been too wishy-washy on a number of things, both when he was at Miami and with the Jets. Well known about not caring much for certain players, but anyway. Be that as it may, I guess my answer to your question is I'm not particularly enamored with Gase.
Well, Coach, your answer is probably the answer of I would say probably 90% at least of Jets fans out there that I've talked to, especially everybody that I've talked to is not a big fan. They weren't happy whenever he was hired, but they were like, well, we'll see how it plays out, and it seemed to be even more debacle right now. But people want to see progress, and they have not seen progress. But we'll see what happens. I agree with you too. I didn't like the hire first off, but the demeanor, I agree. I think that's something that's well said. But he's got he's got his work cut out for him. Jets fans are tired of being below average, as they have been for quite some time. And I'm not taking a shot at them, just speaking some truth. They know, they understand. But Coach, I do want to get into this. Interesting enough. Look, I did a little research here, and there's some teams that have not won a championship, surprisingly, since 1992, which is now the modern era of college football. When I say this doesn't have to be this year. This means moving forward, building up, things like this. Which of these teams that I'm fixing to mention here, Coach, do you believe has the best chance to win a championship first out of course, these teams? In Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, Oregon, who has 0, by the way, I understand, and Texas A&M. So Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, Oregon, and Texas A&M. Coach, who do you believe out of these teams will win a national championship first?
I think just looking at over the last 4 years, what they're doing in Georgia would give me great cause to say Georgia, and I think I will say Georgia. I think they've done an outstanding job there. Bringing talent in, and they've done a good job coaching them. And they have won and continue just to reload, and there's quite a bit of momentum now behind that program. So I would have to say Georgia.
Yeah, I want to agree with that because you know what? The thing is, Coach, is they've been so close for so long. Eventually they're going to take that next step, although we both talked about Florida this year. But going forward, what Kirby Smart has done there has been fantastic. I mean, it goes without saying. Notre Dame, we've seen them struggle. They are a good team, but we've seen them struggle to take that next step. Penn State, I think, will be stuck for quite some time behind Ohio State's, and even Michigan's and teams like that. Oregon, I think at the Pac-12 right now, they've got to get it figured out. Now, Oregon, of course, has a great team, but one thing that we see, Coach, is playing with a team like Georgia and Texas A&M. They'll be a good squad. But I don't know if they'll take that next step. But Georgia, Coach, the one thing you can say is if you come out of the SEC, you got a pretty good shot at winning the national championship. So just because if you've been able to survive that type of season, that gauntlet each and every year, you know that you're a team to be reckoned with. And Georgia has done such a great job. We'll see what happens with them this year. But I would agree with you on that, Coach. Georgia is definitely a team to look out for. The other teams, we haven't seen them take that next step. Georgia has been there and almost pulled it off. So close when you talk about it facing Alabama in the game there. But nonetheless, Coach, we'll see what happens. But, look, we're going to go to a quick break. I want to have enough time to talk a little bit about this. Look, we talk about the Power 5 conferences. What is it like for the Group of 5? Will the Group of 5 ever win a national championship? Will they even be able to recruit with the Blue Bloods of college football? And Baker Mayfield popping up in the news again. Will we have the Baker Mayfield of the rookie season or Baker Mayfield of last year? We'll talk a little bit about that as well. All that and more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs, the Florida Society of CPAs, and the Ad Council.
JP here. Everyone here at ESPN Pensacola wants to send a shout out to our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. We know it's tough, but we appreciate the work you put day in and day out. We also want to thank our essential workers out there for helping all of us continue to live our lives as normal as possible in this time. For our community, keep rocking it. We are going to get through this. Remember, we were named the #1 strong town in America. That wasn't by accident. We have seen so many people step up and do their part, and we thank all those people for their efforts. We will be stronger for this, and together, we will beat COVID-19.
Economic development, better schools, law enforcement, and public safety. Just a few of the issues that are on the minds of residents of Santa Rosa County. Twice a month, we take the time to recap the news events that shape and resolve the issues that affect our daily lives. Join us tonight for Focus on Santa Rosa, a 30-minute look back at the past 2 weeks of local news coverage by ESPN's sister station, News Radio 92.3 AM 1620. Focus on Santa Rosa, tonight at 8 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
The latest news and sports can be heard on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Get the latest news and football on Talk Football with Coach K. Daily sports talk on your drive home on The Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. And a recap and look ahead of the sports week on Sports Call with Davis and Justin every Saturday. Plus, national sports radio talk on Golic and Wingo, The Dan Lebertard Show with Stu Gotts, and The Paul Feinbaum Show. It all lives on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Coming up on Sports Call this Saturday, golf's favorite caddy and sports analyst Michael Collins will be joining us. Also, Jason Fitz at 12:30. That's this Saturday from 11 to 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, of course, continuing to practice social distancing. Well, look, we got a lot we've gone through in this show. We got a few more things we're going to try to get done with here. Talking some football, talking about the AAC, now the American Athletic Conference. And, well, Coach, I won't just break it down to the American. I will break it down to all the Group of Five. We always talk about the Power Five conferences, and they've ruled out. Chad loves his UCF Knights, obviously, with the big bowl game they had there a few years ago, kind of putting them on the mark. They've kind of fallen off at this point. We've seen teams, Coach, we talk about in the American because they're pretty much the team that said, look, it should be the Power Six, including us. They've had teams like Cincinnati. They've had teams like Memphis, SMU, Navy. Look, they've had some pretty good teams, obviously, but haven't been able to take that next step, Coach. And a lot of it is the fact that they say, well, we don't get the respect we deserve. But, yeah, people break down, look, strength of schedule and recruiting and other things like that. Coach, my question to you is not necessarily a specific team, obviously, but will we see a Group of Five conference, a team from a Group of Five conference be able to make the playoff, or not even necessarily that, be able to recruit with the blue bloods of college football in the Power Five?
Well, good question. I don't really see it happening. I think the five will probably expand at some point because I really see them breaking away from the NCAA at some point in the not too distant future. In fact, could be very soon. I think to say that the conference would be included in one of the Big Five, I don't see that happening. In fact, there's some real. I can understand Swofford. Your first story with Swofford retiring from the ACC. Well, if you just look at the climate in today's football in particular, and that's what runs the college athletic department as well as the conference, and it's in turmoil. Absolute turmoil. They're talking about paying players. They're talking about other things that would take this from an amateur sport to basically a professional sport. They're talking about a total lack of discipline, as we would understand it, devaluation of a college education, all the problems that you're talking about, and in particular with the ACC. You got a lot of weak teams in there. To have been fighting for equal footing, primarily with the SEC, that's not going to happen. They're not nearly there. Or the Big Ten. They're one of the Power Five, but they may be number 5 on the list. So I think you've got to take that into consideration. And I think it's an uphill battle, so I can certainly understand him in this day and time saying that's enough, I'm going to get out right now because it's going to get worse. So I know we want to be very positive, but I really think there's some problems ahead for college football. But I don't see that happening, JP.
Yeah, I would agree because I go back to this, and you are right. I think we have some rough days ahead of us for college football, just to get on the field regardless. I'm not talking about COVID-19. I'm talking about with everything else. So we talk about Florida, of course, passing the pay, like the name, image, and likeness. They can get paid now. What's going to happen? These other states are going to follow suit. What's going to happen to college football? And I want to make people to understand what this was brought to Governor DeSantis by a former sports agent who's now a lawyer. So if that's not writing on the wall of what's fixing to happen, you're clueless. I just want to say that. Do a little research on it. But I think it's going to be a bidding war. And if the Power Five separates from the NCAA, which looks like you said, Coach, could be sooner rather than later. They've been talking about it for a while, but obviously with everything that's been happening, pushing that forward a little bit faster. I don't know. But we're talking about the Group of Five. It's tough because, look, in the American, you look at last year, the best team in the American, the Cincinnati Bearcats, 11-3. Of course, got blown out by Ohio State and lost twice to Memphis. And Memphis, you look at them. They end up being ranked 17th in the nation, and Mike Norvell is now over at Florida State. We've talked about UCF before and battling, and it just comes down to this, coaches. I will say that no group of five will make it because no matter whether the Power Five stays or they go and do their own thing and it's semi-pro football is what it'll end up turning into, I don't think that, for one, they'll be able to afford to keep up with these guys, especially when it comes to recruiting. And we know how important that is, and that's why these guys can't take the next step. But it's going to be interesting. Coach, look, I know we did just a minute here. I do want to mention, because this was brought up, Baker Mayfield. People were wondering, now this team, what's going to happen with him? Are we going to get the Baker Mayfield from his obviously his rookie season, who had a great season, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions? Or are we going to get Baker Mayfield last year, who was 21-20? Coach, I will say this. Obviously, you know the coaching changes he's went through. I believe that we are going to have a lot better Baker Mayfield. They built this team around him, and I just have a lot of faith in the kid.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they've got an awful lot of talent. And the other thing is that he recognizes that he was too visible. He opened his mouth too much. He's kind of laying in the weeds, keeping his mouth shut, and doing what he should do. So that in itself should lend to a better season for him.
Yes, that's a great point. He is, for people saying, yeah, right, we'll see, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I believed he was highly embarrassed. And remember, this is a guy that is one of the biggest competitors there is out there, outside of guys like Tom Brady, obviously. But I think this Cleveland Browns team's a team to look out for. And look, I'll be rooting for him. Why not? I think, but we have to understand, too, the coaching changes he went through was insane. I mean, going on his third or fourth coach already, and this is his third year in the league. But, Coach, look, we didn't get to everything. We got plenty more we'll talk about tomorrow, but that sound means it's time for us to go. Coach, it's been a pleasure.
You bet. Look forward to it, JP.
Absolutely, Coach. Appreciate it, and appreciate our listeners out there. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, talking some football with you right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
The only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
First Take, your take on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz. We'll start with some headlines that you need. There's been some controversy around the New York Jets, and there are reports that Jamal Adams' relationship isn't just bad with ownership, but also with head coach Adam Gase. Well, New York Jets defensive coordinator Greg Williams didn't want to comment on the specifics of Jamal Adams' contract dispute, but he threw his support to the All-Pro safety and sounded cautiously optimistic about his return. The quote, "You never ever mess with the guy's contract, but I've got his back on these types of things. He has to get all that stuff settled, so now boom, get back into our settling, and now we're ready to roll. He knows that." Remember, Adams is unhappy with his contract and at this point is looking for the opportunity to be traded. Reports are that he has a toxic relationship with Adam Gase, but at least we hear the defensive coordinator and Greg Williams speaking out. Speaking of speaking out, the next headline you need to know, Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach come together. I know, rival football coaches coming together. Well, they were part of a contingent from Ole Miss and Mississippi State, addressing the state legislature Thursday, lobbying for the Confederate emblem to be removed from the Mississippi State flag. Quote, "We removed the flag from our campus 5 years ago, so we've made it clear that it doesn't represent who we are at Ole Miss. Today is another big step in doing our part to move the state forward and ensure a more welcoming environment for everyone. This is extremely important to me and to our players. Time for change." That's Lane Kiffin speaking. Don't forget, Mississippi State running back Kylan Hill tweeted earlier this week that he would not be representing the state anymore until the flag is changed. And lastly, on headlines, little NFL news, Malcolm Jenkins has spoken out on the COVID-19 risk, saying, quote, "Football is a non-essential business, and so we just don't need to do it. So the risk, has to be really eliminated before I would feel comfortable going back. So Malcolm Jenkins, that's New Orleans Saints safety Jenkins, speaking to that. Remember, he's a 12-year veteran, member of the NFL Players Association Executive Committee. That was his words on CNN. And it's a reminder that players are going